And right here, where that antenna is, 3 years ago was the twin towers. Danny Banjock loves J3s too. But that's a cherried out one. That thing is restored nice.
It looks like a toy.
Yeah. That B-17 would have blown him away if he was in the... Brian, it's the coolest thing in the world to ride in a Cub with the windows off, the doors open. And I don't think that's holding the wing on. There's something about it. Look at the size of this exhaust pipe. What goes in here, Bri?
I'm not exactly sure.
Or is that a blow-off valve?
I don't know.
Or does that suck air in there? Yeah, I wonder what that is.
And then you got all your paperwork and everything.
Oh yeah.
Relays and
everything's safety wired.
See any crimps going on there?
Nope. Hey, John DeTavio was a bomber mechanic. Look at all this stuff going on in here. If you're building a scale model, this footage would be priceless. So what is that, the air filter under there? That looks like some kind of oil filter, air filter?
Probably some kind of cooler, I would imagine. Not going into the engine. Some kind of pump on top.
But I wonder what we got to ask one of the guys that knows. This is going into the turbocharger.
All this cow.
Yeah, well, that's the cooling. This one looks nice and clean too.
All these are in.
You know, it's amazing how high that thing is up in the front. It's like 20 feet high up to the nose when it's sitting on its tail wheel. Now, Walt Brownell did a model similar to this. He would know what all those parts are. Walt, when you see this, tell me what those parts are. He probably did all the research and has the books and everything on this. They don't have the tube by the turbocharger. But there's enough oil on there. This guy's leaking some oil. What do you think, Bri? Is that the oil vent there? Crankcase vent?
Definitely, probably just breathers.
Some kind of vent there. That might be the oil cooler underneath there.
They don't have no PCBs, you know?
No.
Breathe into the atmosphere like.
No. Look at the cracks in the metal up there, and there's actually cracks. This is 60 and 70-year-old aluminum here, I'm sure. Fascinating stuff. And in our lifetime, there will be no more. And the steam engines are gone, and these are gone, and we're gone. Now, there's some macho landing gear there, baby. The garage door opener springs. Whoa, that's some serious stuff there, baby. You know what this red thing must be? Some kind of safety that the gear some idiot doesn't retract the gear while, I'm sure that's happened already. Look at these tires.
Collapse while it's sitting here?
No, that somebody in the cockpit doesn't hit the lever to retract the gear. It's all hydraulic. Yeah, remove before flying. That's some kind of safety issue thing. And there's one on the front, too, up there.
Look at the tail stop. We got enough air to balance.
Well, you know what happens if people walk to the back of the plane?
Yeah, well, maybe, That would be a weird feeling while you were sitting in it and the thing started to lean.
Yeah. Berlin Airlife. These are the planes they use for the Berlin Airlift. Pitts, SNJ. See if this skid has ever hit the ground. I guess you can't tell. Some kind of spring on there. Does it ever hit the ground? We're so critical. Go on that. See if you can rock the plane. See if you can get this guy's full attention. Oh, we got a pits. Let's go check the pits out. Oh, here you go, Bri. Mike Kajeski's plane. Check this out. I wouldn't mind having this in my backyard.
I'm gonna get a body for Mike's lawnmower like this.
Yeah, Mike's lawnmower. My grandchildren are gonna have one of these if I gotta sell drugs to get it. That is cool. I think there's a motor in there. Is there a motor in there?
There's a key and everything.
There's a key? Whoa! My grandchildren will love this. Oh my God! Look at this.
You know they do. They probably use it in a parade.
Yeah. I've seen this at the Reno air races. They drive around in this. Yeah, in the Reno videos.
This is one of the Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
But in a smaller model, naturally.
Yeah. I'd like to have this in my backyard, my lawn ornament. Get rid of those dumb flowers and put some
lawnmowers on it, right?
Yeah. Well, a friend that mows the grass, I'd love to have 2 blades on each wing. All right, Brian, when that kid's done, you get inside, we'll drive it around. I don't think so.
You need the key.
Yeah, I noticed they didn't leave the key in there. Can I see your license, son? You sure you have a license for this?
Got regular drive shafts to the rear wheels, man.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this on the Reno, the Skyfire video. They drive, yeah, look at this universal joint. Very cool. Very cool. He's out of gas. V25 or 826 stuff here. All this stuff. Brian wants to get a ride in the pits. Bill Rutherford.
Some tight quarters in here, man. You're in here.
Bill Rutherford, eat your heart out. Bill the Batman. Look, he's got the stunt pattern up on the...
This would be my dream ride if I was going to take a ride something like this.
Well, when we rode in Rutherford's plane in Texas in that RV6, that's the same high performance like this is.
Yeah.
Look at the paint on it. It's beautiful.
My stomach is nuts, man.
This will turn your stomach. Just do one loop and you'll be eating breakfast twice.
Pretty nice.
Brian, look at the thing for doing a stunt pattern for the 45s and the 90s. He brings his own judge on board. Look at this.
Incredibly strong. This is a pitch +7 and
I'm not sure.
3, but it'll handle a lot more. Your body don't.
Right, that's how I was explaining to him. What is the number of G's before you block out typically supposed to be?
It depends on your physiology.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Look at those little trims. He built it crooked. He needs a trim here. It's crooked. That's for engine fluid.
Even real planes have trims.
Even this is aerodynamic. Look at this. Beautiful. Obviously, this guy's... Look at this thing that...
Can you just do that off the horizon or something?
Why don't you put one of these on your Cardinal? That's on it with zip ties too.
9 G's per 20 seconds because it has the energy to maintain That's how you know, even real airplanes need trim tabs.
Real. See, so when you build that Cardinal and you need a trim tab, don't feel bad about it.
Right, you sight down the wing and see if it's working.
You notice every plane that flies good always has a trim tab on it somewhere.
You had your birthday present?
Yeah, my birthday present. Karen got me a 1-hour aerobatic. I got to fly it. They videotaped it, and man, you want to pop your cookies up, you just do a loop in this thing. We gotta clean that motor is. Let's clean it in the motor in your Cardinal. Look at this good-looking guy being reflected in the spinner here. Wait, looks a lot like my evil twin. Hello, take me for a ride. When we were down by Zambelli's, they had a
Same stuff you use on your plane, eh?
Look at this. I thought it didn't leak any oil. He's cheating. He's pledging his plane down. That's clean as a whistle there. This might have been the plane. It's based in New Jersey.
I know, it's pretty out. It's only like T6 here. That can't be the only oily version. Yeah, it's a little cleaner than those T6.
A little cleaner, forget it. Not cleaner than my bomber. That's a nice prop, huh? This is an RV6. This is what we rode in. Rutherford's is an RV6.
Yeah.
Rutherford, Eat Your Heart, 1996.
160 miles per hour.
He flew it out to the World Championships. Bill the Batman. I don't remember. He didn't have this kind of prop on it, though. That might be a different RV6. Boy, these things fun to fly. Nice paintwork on this too. Yeah, the interior looks exactly very similar to Bill's.
Side by side.
Yeah, side by side.
Still gotta be so tight, man.
No, but surprisingly not that tight. And Bill's a big guy too. Not as big as I am, but he's big. It was comfortable. See, you're always feeling bad about having duct tape on your plane? No problem. Just buy yellow duct tape.
It really is kind of amazing when you see that stuff.
I know.
Look.
Another trail. Let's see if he built this straight. Oh, no. So I don't want to hear anything about trim tabs with you guys anymore. Brian, if you ever get a chance to go for a ride in one of these, take it. It's worth driving down to Texas just to get a ride in one. Very cool. RV6. And on the bottom of his, he has, not on the top, on the bottom is a bat.
Now,
like the Thunderbirds?
He built his?
Yeah, yeah. He works, he owns his own hangar. He got a business.
How's that work? Are you buying brakes on it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Bill's has wheel pants too. I'll show you the video from
wheel
Texas.
pants to make it look better.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, exactly.
Rides for like 10 pounds, 2 cents a pound.
Really?
Yeah. I was going to do it and I missed the day.
Oh, you should. We get when Zambelli comes up next time, we'll go for a ride. He'll let you fly the plane.
I've never been in a plane in my life.
Oh, I'll tell Zambelli when he flies up. Look at the wing folding mechanism on this. If we saw this fly in. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it is. You don't see these all over the place either.
No, but that seems awfully quick to have it put away and everything.
They retract the wings while the engine's still running.
I thought it was
Look at the size of this pipe. You can put your head in a pipe.
Oh, you got hands.
Yeah, there's the torpedo, baby. There's the torpedo, TBF. Torpedo. Bomb hoist. What always amazes me, Bri, is the landing gear. Look at all the joints and flex points and bushings and wow. Death Avenger. Time flown by President Bush. What a cool show and what a great day to have an air show. The one year they had the B-24 here, that was really special. We have that on video, I'm sure, somewhere in the bowels of the video library.
Got the tail hook on it and everything.
Yeah, that's the carrier hook.
Yeah. It's a hell of a wing.
Just thinking of hydraulic pressure. How much clearance when they retract this wing? Look at oh my God, not much. Oh, I see. They put a hook in between. True. Look at that carrier hook.
Gun turret under the back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a 3-man crew in a TVF. See inside?
Yeah. You know after you got the door open.
Oh, okay. The guy's got a window anyway. Look at his staff. That's what they all are. Look at electrosets.
When you get up in there, well, somebody my size is pretty difficult. Somebody his size is probably not doing well at all. Most of the guys were about 5'4" or 5'5" and only weighed 120 pounds. Yeah, you just get up in there. Originally, what would happen is they had a trap door in them too that came up in the door. No, this is the Avenger. Yeah, the Hellcat was a fighter. And that's the bomb. Torpedo bomb. Yeah, the radio operator sat there. Yeah. They had a 3-man through that, the pilot, the gunner, and the radio operator. It was also, the radio operator also acted as the bombardier.
Well, what person alive doesn't like J3 Cubs? Now, this is hard to believe. When I was a kid, we used to go for rides with the doors off. My father was alive. I can still remember that. And he died when I was 7. So how impressive are you when you're a kid? Take the hinge lines, yeah. Look at a hinge gap. You'll learn a lot from looking at. Look at a hinge gap. You can put your finger in the hinge gap. Ryan, I flew in these while my father was still alive. He owned one. Oh man, memories, the smell. Oh my God. How could you be alive and not want to take a ride in a J3? Crimps?
Yeah, I see one on the end.
They don't wrap the ends with wire.
I didn't take much to take one of these out of the air, huh? Okay. You want to get it down.
Now, when we used to go to the Massachusetts meet, we always used to stop at the Windsor locks. The National Guard used to have A-10s, and they'd be doing maneuvers, and boy, oh boy, these things look mean in the air. I guess they look even meaner if you're some kind of terrorist running around and this thing is coming to get you. Warthog. guess he'd be impressed with that.
Gatling gun, right? Their parts up in there. 50 cal, I guess? Got it.
It's big. I don't know what. It's big. Like a matte finish on it, huh? Yeah. I wonder if that's on purpose. It's definitely a matte.
Reflective, I guess, you know.
Yeah, some kind of radar reflective. It's like, you can't really see it. It's a matte kind of finish. Yeah. Ordinance stuff. Do not touch window, so Brian touches
Touching the side.
Oh, that's the camera, yeah.
Put it on them fingerprints.
Yeah.
A lot of bugs probably.
Probably hit some birds. That's all hydraulic, I'm sure. Gears, yeah. Do not paint. Do not paint. I saw that.
Radar or something.
Yeah. I like the finish, that matte finish. Twin rudders. Swept rings, variable sweep rings. Talk about a landing gear, Brian. Look at the size of this gear. You know, these have to withstand carry a landing, so look at the strength must be built into that gear. Woo! Holy mackerel. The brakes, they got disc brakes like a motorcycle on it.
You ever see that video that the sailor got sucked into the jet and got hooked? Luckily he hooked before he went into the blades. You ever seen that?
No.
He's standing in front of it, they rev up the engine, all of a sudden he just goes whoop. And whatever he had on him snagged.
He had a belt or something that saved him? Wow.
He was in the tube, but he didn't go any further.
Whoa.
And just looking down there, you would...
How'd you like to work on that hydraulic system, Brad? It looks like spaghetti up there. You know, Kajeski's son-in-law, he works on these things. Very cool. Very cool. They have some kind of venting to the top of the wing here.
Hell, I don't think these will fly.
Huh?
They don't fly this mess, do they?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They flew in here. They had to fly it in here. How else did they get it in here? By helicopter? This has had some service. Here's your tax money at work. Look at this thing. Unbelievable. Whoa. Imagine how much training you need to work on this stuff. All the pivot points for the landing gear. And these gear obviously have to take carrier landings. Man. It's just staggering me, just looking at all the hydraulics. Whoa. This has the same thing, Roy. Do not remove. Yeah, see, this prevents that from knuckling. Some idiot pulls the trigger in the cockpit. Or maybe while they're working on it, some guy, drops a cigar butt on it or something. This is not real impressive. Ooh. I guess they don't pledge these down at the end of every mission, huh? Now, what is that, you think? Like radar reflective stuff?
It's like it's coated with JB Well.
Maybe that's what it is. This is something in. Look at this. A yak. Here comes a yak. We're here just in time to see the yak arrive. You bet. We just get booted off.
Space shuttle.
Yeah. Take some for my tune pipe. Put my tune pipe in here.
Actually, it's metal. It's just a coating.
Yeah, it's ceramic of some kind, I assume. I'd like to be back here when he hits the afterburners.
Yeah, Russia, they got some small landing gear.
Yeah, for sure. Look at this carrier hook. Look at the size of this thing. Holy mackerel. That has been used.
Not a lot of weight.
I bet this is a grade 8 bolt too. Not a fake bolt. This is amazing. Whatever titanium or whatever material that is. Look at inside though, how hot that must get.
It's like stainless steel to me.
Yeah. Get in there. I want to see what you look like inside. Put a jet ski in there. Empire State Building in the background. Wow. Look at that. Looks like the same tail hook, similar anyway. Whoa.
I've been counting on that design.
These gear look complicated too. Uh-oh, somebody bent into this. Peabody must have parked this one. Oh yeah. Team Gladiator.
All passengers who are scheduled to fly on Flight 3, the third flight of the United C-17, please report to the aircraft. If you are on the third flight
nasty intake going on there too, baby. Who's up for a shop vac? I bet that'd clean the field real nice. Those might be protective coatings of some kind. It looks like carbon fiber underneath it, the honeycomb. And there's the look of carbon fiber there. Probably to keep the APU, keep the battery charged or whatever. Who knows? They only shut 2 engines off and they leave 2 running. Not sure why. Unless the generators, the electrical system runs off of those 2 engines. Who knows? How much oil I think they're burning, Brian? Up the other engine. There we go. Paul Walker, my hat's off to you. What a great model. What a great plane model, the B-17. For shooting out toward the other planes. We're going down with the ship here if they catch us. We don't want you taking pictures of the airport. I'm sure what that's about. We'll sail, I'll take it. Nah, cool. Hey, don't talk about my plane like that. Jack 52. There goes the guy's hat. Bye-bye hat. Look at this hat. meet some 200 pounders down there. Put that thing around the engine, that's what's got me.
Yeah, it must control the temperature. How the open and closes and just allows.
Yeah. And the engine turns backwards, counter-rotating. Probably have the crankshaft made by Rich Oliver there. Definitely a Doran prop, nice big fat prop. Nice lightweight prop. Doran, you get the contract to make these props. You don't have to work in a machine shop. Taped hinge lines. Look at this. This guy must know Windy.
But again, another trim tab.
A trim tab? Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's neat.
Right in it.
Even the rudder's got a trim tab, yeah. Very cool. Nice paintwork on it. It's got a Miss Ashley paint job. Red and white. The thing out on a strut that I guess by doing their reference for their pattern. Navion. When I was a kid, they had Navions in Peterborough. Look at this Navion. Oh, nice cowl shape there. You can't even tell this is a fiberglass reproduction. This is cool, Brian. Brian?
Or is it all on
This was a very inventive thing.
Yeah. That's a turbulator?
Well, to keep the center of the wing from stalling. Put that on your Cardinal.
That was just an add-on thing after.
Army paint job, a Navion. Where's Rich going tomorrow? The NASCAR to Dover?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Well, Peabody goes. Peabody has season tickets or something.
This is the one that's on
on the movie, with the face.
I like that nose already.
Make a cardinal like that. Make a spinner to Deke or something. Ooh, pretty cool cardinal. But Rich should really be here to see his Stuka. He'd be impressed. P25. Well, Paul, I'm looking for your Manchester here, but I don't see any Manchesters. This is nice, boy, the Schneider. It's an SB6. Yeah. That's like what a, what do you call the plane Andy Hirsiadis is supposed to be modeled after that. The guy at the Nats had one.
Oh, the
Tucker Special. From tipping over when they were taxiing it. Crosswind, I guess. That's pretty cool. So this engine turns backwards. Have him drive over your foot. Look at where the exhaust pipe is on this thing. Exhaust pipe comes out right by the treads. Well, how do they steer this? With just the front wheels? Those back things aren't like tank treads? Look at the front wheel drive thing on this, Brett. Look at the size of the universal joints on there. Front wheel drive. Yeah. Toyota, eat your heart out. Well, that's in nice shape. That's nice paint, too. That is in really nice shape.
How the mirrors are held by the slow times.
Oh yeah. Look at the mirrors. They're strapped on. I like the ones that they have a hood strap. They have a leather belt, like holding the hood on, whatever models they are.
Well, a little British policy.
30 cord. Lycoming engine owned by Cord Subsidy Afghan. Still makes aircraft engines. I didn't know that.
It's called traveled the world.
Not like the bar is real high where I'm concerned.
This car traveled the world from Los Angeles to Chicago to England and then to South
Africa.
Where it
Wow.
resided from 36 to 2003.
Ducati? Yeah, the guy's got a Ducati. Again, we get to see the B-17 go by one more time, assuming it does go by. There it goes.
Here we're looking at a crappy rainy day. Would that be giving it the benefit of a doubt? So what we decided to do is make up the wing skins for the Tigercat wing. Get out all my balsa wood and see if I got enough to make a decent set of skins. John usually takes the good stuff for himself and he leaves me the heavy stuff. The secret to building light planes.
Yeah.
Still all Wendy's good wood.
Into Wendy's good wood.
Anyway, we'll get into this and see if we have some matched pieces of wood here. These look okay.
Yeah, nothing wrong with them. You look good.
You never know until you actually make up the skins, but
Yeah.
I've got them all pre-weighed, and of course we'll try to make the lighter skins for the inner wing, the heavier skins for the outer wing, the heaviest skin on the top of the outer wing. If we get the 4 skins made up during this rainy day, that'll be nice. I'll be looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing this Tigercat wing all in one piece. All week's supposed to be lousy, huh? Man, this weather's just terrible.
No, it's supposed to clear up tomorrow.
You sure?
Yeah.
That's not what I heard.
Yeah, I just listened to it just now. So tomorrow it should be nice and clear.
This is the aftermath of all those hurricanes, I think.
Yeah, you bet.
Hey, Hurricane Bimbolini. Chicky, why can't you make these wing skins so John and I can go have some coffee? Notice he doesn't do anything. He just hangs out here.
Yep.
All right. Looks like we got some decent wood. Let's make skins. I'm just trying to take out the ones that have an obvious warp. This one here doesn't look so healthy. Not so good, even though that's a nice light piece. This one looks better. Huh. Well, like I said, that one's not so good either. Within this light wood, that one's not so good either. I'm trying to find ones that are not all predetermined to be twisted. Bless you.
Yeah, I think.
That one looks okay. Okay, so we've got the skins, the parts of the wood. Next thing is going to be to make the joints. Quiet! Store the wood. I always store it and try to store it in piles and on a flat surface if possible. Not always possible, but third, you better get to work. A lot of times the skins have reasonable edges. These are not too bad, but just chew them up. And any ones that aren't true, you can do with a ruler and a razor, or you can pretty much do this. Just to get a flat on them. It looks like we're just going to be able to make it with 3 sheets, as long as we don't waste any material here. And now to see how they're going to join up. If you have some back to labels, here we have an epidemic of battery issues here. These old pieces of SIG wood, which are still good wood, the wood isn't bad, but these labels just stick forever, and I hate to chew up the wood because we really need the whole piece of wood. And John Brodak at one time gave me a little heads up on this. Some of these labels and tape, if you just warm it, and we don't know if that's going to be the case here until we try to do it. They're sure not coming off without heat. And boy, you hate to chew up the wood. It's so hard to get decent wood. You'd like to take the person at SIG and hang them by the yard arms that came up with this idea. Unbelievable how bad this is. Pay $4 for a piece of wood and it takes you half an hour to get the label off it. I'd like to find out who invented this and go to their car. You know, when they're parking in a parking lot, and just put these stickers all over their car. And the wood is so soft, even a fingernail mark just goes right into it. I'm thinking about Riley Wooten's wood, but you don't get this. Look at this nonsense. And we need the whole sheet of wood for this wing. Hey, here it comes. Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray. Lucky me. Oh, lucky me. You could ruin a good piece of wood with these stupid labels. Yeah, we'll go to whoever's in charge at SIG of putting these labels on the wood. We're going to stick them all over the windshield of that car. 4 hours of hard work. John and I finally got all the labels off. I'm trying to pick sheets that have a matching, if you just hold them together.
Yeah.
These actually don't have too much of a
No, this is.
I shouldn't have to trim much of this at all.
No, it's a pretty good gap there.
Famous last words. Yeah, just push that up, okay. Now once I got the seams to where they're semi-flat, I'm happy with them. Now I'm going to put a piece of tape down the whole
Right.
The purpose of this tape is just to hold it together and to keep any glue that happens to walk down through the tape from gluing our precious wood to the table. I've done that already. Boy, is that embarrassing? You got to turn the sheet over.
And it won't come off.
Yeah, now, okay, we can see the joints real nice here. That's good. And a little dent in the wood right there.
Where?
Why, there's still gum on the furnace.
Oh, yeah, right there.
Oh, man. Okay.
Put wood a little bit and it'll swell that up.
That'll be all right. Be all right just the way it is. Now, I just want to make a little dust so that any gap that's there, I'll leave the dust right in place. We'll go get a brand new CA, put a little extension tube on it, and should be ready to run those seams. All that's left is I put a little piece of Teflon tubing onto a brand new CA. Make sure the seam has a little bit of dust on it, but not a lot. Just wipe it with my bare hand. Work with one end. And the reason for using fresh CA, you definitely don't want to put any kicker by here and create one of those popcorn deals. A lot of different ways to join sheets. This way seems to work for me. One thing you don't want to do is hold a paper towel there.
Oh, Jesus, you're stuck.
You glue yourself. There was a couple little high spots there, but that one worked out okay. Needless to say, you want to clean the table off so the table's perfectly clear. What happens if you have a little goober or something on the table? As can happen. Okay, let me just pull a tape up now. Let's see how these joints look. You really only have to glue one side with this. And put your finger there. Oh yeah, very nice. Good. And we've got one wing skin ready for some sanding. Some final sanding with maybe some 320 or 400 before we get to join it. But I'll get all the skins made up. I'll make 3 more up off camera. Takes longer to take the SIG labels off than to make the wing skins.
That's right.
Quiet, wing skins. Next step is we want to get all the skins, all the seams sanded with some 320 and a sanding block. And then the most important thing is to vacuum up every bit of the dust. You never really can skip that step, because this dust is what keeps you from
Sticking.
sticking, as we're sticking, as we call it in Jersey, sticking. And I always like to go on about a 45-degree angle for most of the sanding. Try to get as much of the seam out as possible. I don't want to make the skins any thinner than they already are. I'm not looking to make 30-second sheets here, but I just like to get them level. And then we'll take the 2 best ones that have the nicest of the seams, make them the top. Any ones that have a fingernail mark or anything that we can put in as the glue side, we'll try to put that in toward the glue side, of course. And here in an hour or so, we're ready to snap one of these together. This may be that I'm going to have to add a piece in the corner there, John. You know, that wing is just exactly that, so I don't want to take a chance that, oh, sorry, we missed.
Yeah.
Boy, when you miss.
Well, you get a piece.
Especially when it's on video, when it's on video. Oh, look at this guy. And then the bird is always watching. You never can trust the bird to keep a secret. He's like Dan Rather. Dan Rather bird.
You haven't heard much of him lately,
he's going back to Texas.
Oh,
freight train. He better volunteer to judge or something.
I ain't got enough money.
Oh, yeah. Get all the skins sanded on both sides. Now the next thing is, I want to mark the end of each core so I can put them back in the original core they were cut from at some point in time. I want to take, this is how I get them from John, take this apart and sand the core itself, fine sand it with some 320 or 400 and vacuum it. I'll have this all set to go for the next session. I just get this all sanded and vacuumed up today. John sands these very slightly, and probably that's enough, but I like to give them a little extra sanding with a block. I don't want to change the shape, but most important, the most single important thing is get it vacuumed. And what I like to do is take an air compressor, turn it up as high as it'll go, maybe 100 pounds, and blow the dust off, then vacuum it. Any wires, you can see these are almost totally flat. Any wire marks, you can get them out. The idea here is we're going to get everything prepped up for the next session. The next session we'll be ready to join the skins. We're in the middle of, still raining out there, huh, John?
Yeah.
The middle of all this rain. We should send all this rain somewhere else. We have more rain this summer. Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah, he's helpful. You're a big help, Chicky. And the compressed air will even get more off. So once we get these totally cleaned up, we put them aside, they'll be ready for our... I like to start early in the morning when I'm going to join a wing. Sheet a wing is what I meant. And try to get the whole thing done in one day if we can, leading edges and everything. That's pretty much ready to go. Yesterday we got all the sanding done on the rough cores and the sheets. And today I want to make a little bit of an effort at getting maybe one or both of these joined up. Now in the past we've done these with the contact cement, and Les has been wanting to do a couple with epoxy. So I think what we're going to do in this case, we're going to show the epoxy method using West Systems resin. Now we use epoxy resin virtually every day in our production stuff. This is our molding table, one of many things that we do every day. And we have several different kinds, in fact many different kinds of resin, but what we wanted to try is to sheet a wing using the 105-205 system. Now this will be the first time we've used this resin. In the past we've used other kind of resins. The advantage of this resin is it's a bonding resin, a laminating resin, and it should, in some ways, maybe there'll be some advantage weight-wise or some advantage in some other way. One of the disadvantages is once we lay this up today, it has to sit in the cradles overnight. So we'll just do this up and then go on to our normal day of work. The thing is to always get the table totally clean, get everything vacuumed up as much as possible. We were working on this last night. Get all these little off the table. We'll lay out some newspaper because we're going to be using epoxy. We like to keep the table at least half clean anyway. One of the first things I'm going to have to do is trim the skins, see if they're going to make it on the whole shape, which again I don't know because we haven't laid one of these out yet. Just before we mix the epoxy, the last thing, vacuum, blow the dust off the cores. There's always more dust than you think there is on there. And a lot of times when you have a problem with the sheeting lifting, it's nothing more exotic than just getting the dust off. Because this is a straight leading edge wing, it's going to be perfectly straight. One of the things I want to take into account for is, and I measured this, but it's way too close of a cut, and I'm still off. Even though it's close, I'm off by 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to take a piece of this sheeting off and just glue a piece in this corner, just so I have that sheeting all done and joined before I actually join this. Now I'm trying to lay this out, and you can see I don't want to have this piece up here by the root. So what I'll do is I'll turn this around and then attach that little piece of sheeting up here and just re-sand it out and vacuum it up. And I'll have to do that to all 4 of the sheets because these have to be all ready to go before we mix the epoxy. We're going to do this in the same way you lay up any epoxy part. It's got you've got a time window probably of 30 minutes with West resin. We make these pieces and add this little tang to the end. What's really important is to make a top and a bottom, because these sheets all have what hopefully is one side that doesn't have any giant chunks. We try to put all the sheets that have a thumbnail mark or something all on the inside, so we have the better of the 2 sides on the outside. So now you wouldn't want to have a part that when you're all done sheeting the wing, the bad spot is on the outside. We want to put all those bad spots, if possible, or any seam that isn't really perfect, on the inside of the wing. So we really have to, with each panel, in this case I can do this very simply, is just by checking it.
I did it with a little bit of a red outline that I have an inner part and an outer sheet, and since there's no taper in the leading edge, this will be a perfectly straight line in the front, which would be scale for a Tigercat. And it'll just be a question of repeating the same thing on our other two sheets. So we'll have sheets that match that core. This will be an assembly, and we'll have the same thing once we put that little tang on this piece, and then we'll be ready to mix the epoxy. Get everything out exactly the way these two pieces are going to fold together. Made up my two trowels, one straight, one like a tile trowel with some little teeth. Let's see what we do this, how we do that. And this is the way when I did wings with epoxy years ago, and I abandoned this years ago only because it was quicker and maybe or maybe not a little lighter, I'm not sure, to do them with the spray glue. But in this case, I take a 1 ounce mix and just trowel it right on with a brush. Brush is step one. The smooth trowel, I marked with a red pen where the wood would actually end. The most important thing is to get it, that you've got it down into the wood grain, because this really is if you get a spot where there isn't any glue, that's where the sheeting will lift and where you'll have a problem. Now you can see I'm just wetting it on and just letting it kind of slobber on. Whenever I have extra, I just put it up on the other panel. I'm going out past where the wing is going to go. Up in the front where the wing has the most curve, that's where there'll be the most stress on this too. And one of the things, I think Scott Smith was the one that invented it or came up with the idea of using the trowel like a floor trowel. Actually, I had to talk to John DeTavia, who was here yesterday. He's probably got some real sexy troweling tools. But Les wanted to do this test just to see if, well, if we were going to be successful in doing it this way. Now, once that's thoroughly covered, and the way you can tell it's covered, it's shiny. Now I take the trowel that has the little teeth, and this leaves little, what amount to be like I-beam ribs of epoxy. And you don't want to take those off. You want those to stay on. Again, we're using the fast resin, so this sets up. We have a little less than a half an hour to put one of these panels together, which in my case is enough time. I hope. We'll find out. That panel's ready. Take the next one. Now I'm going to probably have to go over and mix a little more resin. I don't want any dry spots. I remember doing this in the past. You could skimp it out and do it with 1 ounce. But if you really missed a spot, boy, you paid later on. So if in doubt, we'll just put extra on there. The other thing too is to let it sit for a minute or so and just look for dry spots. Now if we can do both of these with 1 ounce, that'll be lovely. Basically the same thing as before. I know people like to see the things like this actually in real time, not in like you know, like the home shows where they show you, yeah, here we're going to put up a brick, and the next scene you see there's 8,000 bricks up. Now we don't have enough epoxy here. I'm going to mix up another ounce. If in doubt, have a little more ready. Now, why don't I mix 2 ounces at once? Because it kicks off too fast that way. We're not going to need all of this, but I sure want to get a good bond here. Now, in the past, when I've done this, I didn't put any on the styrofoam at all. What I allow for the styrofoam is that I've got enough on this side
that I'm going to get those little ribs. At least that's how this used to work years ago. There's some advantages to spray glue, some advantages to doing it this way. And since we're going to be covering this whole wing with fiberglass, maybe this would be a way of trying to get more composite into the model. And just get rid of some of the extra here. Going back and forth, making sure we don't have any dry spots. And then the last thing is a little trowel that leaves little ribs. Now, if you get a lot slobbering over the edges, what can happen, doesn't definitely happen, but it can happen, is you can glue this to the core, in which case then you have a problem with that. You really don't want to have that if possible. Now, I can tell just by looking at this that I have too much on here. Again, an ounce will usually do it. And when you see the little ribs just sticking up above, you know you have it. I would say you probably need 1 1/8 ounces to do a big wing like this. And Wes has got all these experimental materials he's working with, and we're going to try to replicate that electric wing that we made last year, but in a Tigercat format, where we have the whole wing glassed and then cored out. Okay, now that takes care of that sheet. Now the trick is, and this is really a part of it, make sure I don't have any glue on the other side, and I do. Aha! Let me get a little rag with some alcohol. Always have the alcohol sitting around, because otherwise what would happen here is we would wind up gluing this to the part. A little bit just coming down there. A little bit over here. Okay, now we need to get the core. Let's put this away for now. We need to get the table flat, in which case we wipe off the trowels. We're done with trowels. Done with epoxy. And by the way, if you leave 1 ounce of epoxy in a cup and go to lunch, when you come back it's going to be on fire. It'll definitely catch fire, so be careful with that. Alright, we want the core piece now that's going to go with this. And that's this one. Now, lining these things up is half of the job, if not the whole job at this point. We've got all the dust blown off, and we'd like to lay this as close as possible to start with. Oh, that's nice. Okay, and then we're going to do a final alignment once we get this in place. Once this is on, now it's to the ends and get a final alignment on it. We get the top piece on. And we'll start to get some weights on that. Another trick is to line this up so that we're right on the money from front to back. And I would start by putting some small weights on it. If you have a piece of glass you can put on top, that's nice. That gets you started. Now it's only the start right there. Now we've got to do the same thing to the other end. Again, we want this to be exactly in alignment if possible. Now, you don't want to put too many weights on there until you eyeball it. Let me just take the camera off the tripod for a second here. You can see where this is wrong. See where it's not lined up there? Now,
what I'm doing with just that little bit of weight on there, just get that alignment so that the core is perfectly straight and we're in alignment. We also want to be in alignment from the top to the bottom. Same thing in the back. Of course, we're on a flat table, that goes without saying. I checked the table was relatively flat. Same thing up at this end. Now once I have it in what I call half good alignment, it's relatively straight, then I'll start adding weights little by little by little till I get as many weights on there and it looks like we're completely compressing it. Of course you don't want to park a car on there, but enough weights that everything is pressed down in compression. And now what I call the babysitting part, I'm going to add more and more weights to that until I see the whole perimeter just oozing just the least little bit of epoxy. And then we're going to let that sit 24 hours. Okay, we got both of them relatively good alignment, plenty of weight on top of them. And I guess all that's going to be left here is to let this sit overnight and see how these cores worked out when we get back in the morning. We're at Ruben and Heidi McBride's beautiful house to see his new Strega. Mike Costello's here. We open the door to the shop, and what does it say? To the bar. Why doesn't it say to Ruben's shop? What does this sign say? Listen, Buzz Brodak, when you're watching this, it says don't trip, don't fall, don't sue, thank you. Oh, we are down in Ruben McBride's absolutely hospital-like environment. Now this is what a cellar should look like.
You see, we had some
Yeah.
landed some tables here. We had one time.
Yeah. He's got this fixed up. The last time I was here it was fixed up, but not quite this nice. This the new Strega?
Mm-hmm.
Now what are you going to do? You're going to paint the body.
Paint the body, right.
And the wing looks nice.
That's ultra coat, all ultra coat.
Ooh, that feels nice. That even feels nice.
Ultra Coat's good.
Ultra Coat's good stuff? All right. And you're good at doing this Ultra Coat now. Who is Stevie or you or who?
Steve's not good at ultra coat now.
If I need some off repairs, I got to know who to press into service.
It's a lot
here.
easier to do the wing when it's not in the plane.
Oh, no kidding.
No, it's a whole lot easier to do it that way.
I like the way you have this all laid out.
Top piece. What's that? Is that from
That's from Wendy, yeah. The only thing is, how do you sand it down once you get it in here? You know, you're going to sand right through it just about. Do you put some wood underneath here so you got more to...
Use a 2-inch or 2 1/4 or what? And then radius it all in. Let's see the bottom. That's half bad. Cal fit nice.
And I got a...
This is not going to have a tune pipe, right?
Oh,
It's an ordinary...
This one.
Okay, double star with the reverse muffler.
Father's Day
Okay.
gift from
Oh,
Heidi.
that's neat.
Down at Brodak.
Yeah, that's a nice looking motor.
I didn't care about the tune pipe, but I just wanted to get the exhaust off the airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The word we're looking for here is lazy, Ruben. Lazy, nothing we all suffer from.
I want to be a one-towel person too.
A one towel. I want to be a no towel. I want to have the friend that comes to the field that just, can I wipe your plane off, mister?
And
3-bolt back plate looks like Fox.
this thing comes off pretty good.
This is light.
Yeah, it is lighter. It's even lighter than the Super Tiger.
Call it light, I guess, for a reason.
They call Bud Light too, but
Less filling.
less filling, Bud Light.
One
Less
take of
filling,
fuel
Bud Light.
and set the setting. One take of fuel. There's your fiberglass cowl on here.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I was hoping you'd have some. Look at he doesn't have any pictures of me up here. Oh, I knew this was.
I had a magazine with you on.
Oh man, Georgie Gatus. George Gatus.
Is that Stephen?
The late George Gatus.
No, I improvised.
Eddie Elastic. Garfield Boy.
He was a cute little boy.
I improvised.
And now,
Grown up sport. There he is, Stevie. Oh my God, look at him. I bet he loves when people come down here and see his picture.
That picture up there on the top is the one you put the milk drink in.
Yeah, oh yeah. George Gatis. Wow, a lot of good memories here.
Nice, these two.
Yeah, a lot of good memories.
That's the culprit that went through Mike's plane out at Genesis.
That was the Mike killer?
The Mike killer. The Genesis. I told Steve, I said, try this plane. Boom.
Oh man.
I had that car, the day he hit Mike's plane, I had that car packed out so that he could say bye.
You never even gave me credit for saving Stevie's life that day.
I will. Run.
Here's Brodak.
Run.
But this is nice, that color comes apart. I like that. You just put right there.
Nice cellar, Rube, I like it. Got all your models here, got the bar going on, got the tape. Oh, a whole slew of windy videos. This guy's okay. Look at this guy. Wow, he's got all the windy videos. Oh, Miss Ashley's Typhoons, B25. Whoa. Heidi, you have good taste in porn, I'll tell you. Flip on Windy Does Dallas here or something. Holy crap. The bar is nice too.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, it's nice here. We had some parties here.
Yeah.
We sit here. I got Stevie's planes here.
When Jerry Tarnowski and his wife, and the last summer we had a party. It was very nice. Very nice. Oh, you get your little exercise. Who does the exercise? That for his hip? For his hip? Ruben is recovering from a hip replacement.
Oh, you got a big machine. I got that upstairs.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. You shares it with the baby.
Here's the one we really like, Testarossa. All right, Ruben, you have no excuse to be unhappy. You have all the toys any man, any grown man our age could want.
You hear that?
What you need is a model railroad, though. Is there any place we could put a model railroad in this cellar, Mike?
There's always room for a model. Especially when you have one like mine. It's one length of track.
Ooh.
You get to blow smoke, and you get to listen to the sounds.
You get to come to my house anytime you want and run my railroad. What's it do? Just buy that triplex. Did you bring the triplex today? No. You didn't bring it? Oh, we'll see you next week. Hey, you going to Florida? You're going to be back next week, right?
I'm going to Florida. I'm coming back for a day.
How much work that saves me having that fiberglass counter?
Tell me about it. That's the deal, baby. I'm telling you.
Take the fuel.
Strega. Mike Cooper's almost done with his Strega too, huh?
I could have been done, but I was fooling around with eBay too much.
Well, we had a great night at Ruben's last night. Hope you enjoyed his little visit. See how his Strega's coming out. This used to be one of the rooms where I had my old Lionel train collection, but as you can see, this is Karen's new sewing machine. And we're going to be making her a work table and some shelves and some benches and some different things. And we're not going to get into it right now, but you can see the shelves are empty. Ruben's selling all my old trains on eBay, basically so we can pay for the sewing machine. But I'm really looking forward to it for one reason. We're going to be able to make wing mittens. It's going to be one of the things. I'm going to the sewing class with Karen. This is kind of an expensive machine too. But I'm really looking forward to having some really nice wing mittens. It also does its own embroidery, so I'll be able to embroider little cardinals and little whatever. I'm not sure what, but I think if you look outside, you can see how gray and gloomy it is. It looks like we're just doing this at the right time. All summer is over, pretty much. Whatever's left, we got a lot of good testing done. And I want to go see this morning how those wings are coming out. Mike Costello bought a bunch of more trains on eBay, and we use my layout to test them all on, but he's going to be building his own, as I've said before. But I'm excited. It looks like we're just getting this Tigercat wing underway right in the nick of time. Go see how that sheeting held up. And this time of year, it's gloomy. It's gloomy. This is actually the first day of the year, I think. You really could almost put the heat on in the house. It's time for the flannel shirts and the
Boy, we've had a great summer. But now the thing that I like the most is the building season. This is the beginning of my time of year, where every morning, get up early, get down to shop before anybody wakes up, get a couple hours of building in, a couple hours of whatever. I'm excited about seeing that. I always feed my birds in the morning. Excited about seeing if that sheeting is going to work out well and how those panels are going to evolve. Johnny Duncan's looking forward to seeing this. This is kind of our own little experimental way of doing things, and we've never done it this way before. Now, I took all the weights off. A little crafty Karen there. Her and I are both really looking forward to using that sewing machine very soon and making some nice wing mittens. Now the next thing is going to be to take the cores off and trim off all the extra balsa edges. That's the next step on this. Now it seems like we did get one of the things I didn't want to have happen was some of the epoxy did ooze through. Didn't do a lot of damage, it can be sanded off, but I was hoping we wouldn't get too much of that. Okay, we snapped out pretty well. And like I said, the next step is get some brand new blades. Brand new single edge razors seem to work the best. Anytime you're cutting an edge like this, it's best to cut and leave a 1/16 or so of an inch and sanding block the edge in. And on the front, we'll just trim that with a razor, leaving, again, a 1/64 of an inch. That last little bit, the reason is if you cut it with a razor, and let's say you cut it with a razor and the grain grabs it in at the foam, you don't get a nice edge. It's always good to put the last little bit on with a sanding block. But these look pretty good. To leave maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Now a good way to do this, let me show the way that I've used. Of course my pen just disappeared, the bird took the pen. What I do is I try to figure out where the core actually is on both sides, and I can do that pretty accurately. Now I have two dots. Now I can take some, let me just get the tape. I don't want to get right up to the core. So that tape helps me get this nice and even. Again, a brand new blade is the way I would like to do this. I don't want to break the grain. I don't want to crush it. And a lot of times when you do an end grain like this, it's a lot easier to do it in 2 cuts or 3 cuts rather than try to do it in 1 cut. This is the first morning of the year I thought Karen was going to run down and turn the heat on. Now, that gives you a nice cut. It leaves that last little bit we'll do with a sanding block. And then we'll just repeat that on all the other corners. A lot of times when doing the long edges, it's easy to just take a lot of material off to begin with and do the last little bit. I can just look down this and follow the blade. Take this last little bit off before we do it with a sanding block. Again, the thing is to get within about a 1/16 of an inch of the foam, but not go into the foam. And as you take a little bit of the foam, a little bit of the wood away each time, it gets easier and easier to just let the blade follow the foam. And this is where having those big tools, those big long sanding blocks, really comes in handy. And we'll be using them to our advantage when it comes time to trim the edges off. Rather than trying to do it all in one shot, it's better to just take little slices off. But I don't want to get up into the foam. I always want to leave a little material on there. Always holding the blade at about a 45-degree angle, which I'm sure you can see. You don't want to hold the blade straight up and down or on about a 10-degree angle, about roughly a 45. Then you're using a different part of the blade each time you make a cut. you can raise the blade a little up or a little down to make the final amount of the cut. Now this part of doing the wing is kind of standard. Once we get this glassed, then we're going to have to make up the templates for the coring, because in this wing almost all of the foam is coming out. And then when we're done, we'll have to make a decision. Do we really want to use this as the wing for the Tigercat, or make some modification to it if it's either too heavy or not as nice as it should be, in which case we'll have a spare wing, and we already have 2 spare wings for the A26. But trying some new technology like this, it may come out better than we think. It may come out where we're disappointed, but you rarely never know until you make what I call make a panel. All of these tests that Les has done, they're really nice, and we've gotten some rough idea of what the weights are, but you don't really know until you make a real wing in a real world and then fly it for a year and see if there's a problem with it. What are you doing up there? Get off me. Where having this perma-grip block really comes in handy. I want to let this just stick out just enough from the core that I can see. As soon as I kiss the foam, I just see, as soon as there's just a little bit of balsa left, a tiny bit, as soon as I'm really close, then I switch to the smooth side. Take the last little bit off. And of course, exactly the same thing on the leading edge. Should be a perfectly smooth edge. Sight down it, make sure I have just a perfectly smooth surface. Wood, foam, and I don't want to change the shape. Now I'll do exactly the same thing in the front here, where I can trim a little more of this. Using a sanding block, leave it in the core, get that edge straight, and then we'll be ready to work on these edges, and we have a little system that we do on those edges too. And some of these tips may be useful no matter what kind of foam wing you're going to make. These would be useful tips, but in this case, doing experimental stuff, we were so happy with some of the wings we made last year that we decided to give this a test on this Tigercat. Now remember, one of the things that this wing has, this has a layer of epoxy on both sides of the balsa, so you would think it would seal this, and it would prevent any kind of rippling, which we have some rippling on the A26 that we'd like to eliminate, and if nothing else, it would just make it a lot stronger. We have both of the edges nice and true. The last thing is to do these end edges, and I have a little trick for doing those that Les came up with. Because we know once these are in the core, they're sitting at 90 degrees, we have a sanding block that's 90 degrees too. So just by using that sanding block, we can get a nice true edge that we hope is going to make it that when we join the panels together, we won't have a lot of adjusting to do. Block is cut on a precision 90 degrees. It's a hardwood block. We have this core in the core, which we know is 90 degrees. So we should be able to do all 4 of the corners just very slowly, dress them off. I don't want to sand into the foam. As soon as I see I've hit the foam, I'm done. But this keeps everything at 90 degrees. Now you see we're almost touching, but we have material back here, so I don't want to sand any more up there. I'll just try to keep the pressure on the back of the block. I can feel for any spots where I'm not picking up the wood. And this is really a great trick for getting the wing, when you go to join all the panels or that you don't get the wingtips on and they're crooked. This serves a lot of purposes all at once, and I don't want to sand off the center line either. Even though I could put it back on, I still need a little bit at the back. And it's having all these little tips and tricks for getting everything 90 degrees. You ultimately have a plane that flies in level flight and doesn't dance and hunt, and wing over pullouts are nice and solid, whatever. And a lot of people, now Mike Scott is flying my Strega down in Texas right now. One of the things a lot of these people figure out right away is, wow, these planes fly good in level flight. Well, usually when that happens, it's because you've taken the extra little time on issues like this. See, now I don't want to touch the foam. I just want to have that all as neat as possible. When we do these two joints, this should be almost a perfect joint. We got this exactly 90 degrees to where the alignment table is going to be. Tip 90 degrees, all our edges are ready for leading and trailing edges. Now, the only thing I have to do the other panel. I thought somebody was going to do that other panel for me. Well, Chicky, I thought you were going to do the other panel. He doesn't do much around here. Guess you've noticed that. This really is a nice straight panel, by the way. And these panels are all sanded out and have the leading and trailing edges on them. They are a thing of beauty. And one thing you get from foam construction, they usually stay perfectly straight. Usually you don't have any issues. Once you've got it straight and everything's lined up, you almost guarantee it's going to stay straight forever. You don't have all the tissue shrinking and all of those kind of issues going on. And in my case, one of the things that would be a must here is because I don't want to have, you're never going to see a Tigercat with silk span. You want to see it with what looks like simulated sheet metal. What I need to do here is adjust the stripper so we can strip off the leading and trailing edges. And I'll leave about a 1/16 on each side. Always good to make the leading edges a little bit bigger than you need, and then we're going to be putting these on with aliphatic resin. Little master air screw stripper, very, very handy tool. Now, one of the ideas I wanted to have, I want to run this by you because we don't know if we're going to actually do this yet. One of the things that I don't really like about the A26 is reaching in. Once you start this engine, you've got to reach your hand around a spinning prop to pull this glow plug off. And I always use an electric starter, even though these engines are one flippers. I just don't want my fingers in there. My elbows. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of action happening out in the front of this plane. When you're standing in front of it, it's like standing in front of two chainsaws. So I've always chosen to use an electric starter, and that's proven to be a smart move. But I had a great idea, and I ran this by Sergio Zegras. I said, what if, since we know we need roughly an ounce to 1.5 ounces of tip weight, and that would depend on the trim of the plane and how long the lines are. We know we have to have this. This is a given. You have to have that ounce of weight. And there's really no other way I know of that you're going to fly a plane without tip weight, or with a lot less than that. So one of the things I thought would be possible to do, and we would do it on this plane, and if we didn't use it, nothing gained, nothing lost, is to have one of these super light batteries, and that's what Sergio's, we're waiting for him to find out what battery that would be. The little battery can be in the tip weight box, and typically they weigh about 14 grams or 1/2 ounce. I could also have on the bottom of the tip weight box a little switch, and then have the wires from the battery going through the front of the wing up to the glow plugs. And this is why I'm thinking about this before I glue that leading edge on, and I'll explain in 1 minute. And also Bob Zambelli then added something even better to it. He says, well, why not, if you're going to do that, why not have a little LED in the circuit? And he can supply that, of course. He's got them. We've got LEDs all over our train layout. Possibly he can supply one for each wingtip. This one could go into this circuit. So we could have the red-green lights that are scale, and they could either blink or go on solid, and you could have it either way, of course, depending on which LED you had. The LEDs weigh, for all purposes, nothing. But what I would need to do to come up with this system, if I intend to use this, is I need a way of snaking these wires through. And I didn't want to run them because the bell crank would be somewhere here anyway. I didn't want to take a chance of just laying them into the foam wing and they'd be doing this all through the flying. So I thought of what I think is an excellent idea. What I'm really looking for is a trough, the whole length of the airplane, a trough that I can get in and snake wires through. Now out here, I can do it through my adjustable tip weight area. I can run a snake through there and move wires around. I need to have a spot where each engine would be to get my wires through. And this would also be very convenient if at some point in time I want to put a Zetron in the plane. And we don't know. We always want to have that option since that's been so much fun. If we ever get a field back where we can taxi flap after lap, well, and we sure can't do it at the field we have now. What's nice about the Zetron, you can just retrofit it, put up the servos and carbs, and it'll add an ounce or two to the plane, but it sure would be a lot more fun. But in the meantime, what I need is a way to snake wires right in this area of the plane, and I figured out how I was going to do that. Now, if I make a little trough, I know where the center line of this piece of wood is going to be. I can just relieve a little bit of this wood. I will have what amounts to be, I could actually relieve the front of the foam too and make a nice big trough right in the leading edge, because all this foam, when we make the templates, and we haven't made them yet, this is going to be I think a 4-bar, or Les is going to be the one that figures that out based on those 3-ounce panels that we had. And we have to figure in these radiuses and how thick we want this at the root and tip. That's going to be a very involved thing, probably a whole day of doing it. But what it lets us gut out all the foam, almost all the foam. And because we have epoxy on this side of the wood, follow through, because this is why I wanted to do this, a real experimental panel here. This is epoxy. The whole wing is going to be glassed. What's going to happen is, I hope, is we're going to be able to get out almost all of the foam. We're going to try to go down as close as 1/8 of an inch of foam and make this what amount to be the spars very thin, 1/8 of an inch. And when we did this to a 660-inch wing, we got the panels down to about 3 ounces. But what it also, and actually this will make it a gram or two lighter. What this does now, not only is it a lighter wing and stronger, at least so far in the tests we've had, it also, you have a hard shell. The whole wing is fiberglass. It's a monocoque. So when you go to put the finish on, the dope and tissue, not much is going to soak through the fiberglass. One coat will definitely do it. So we have hopefully the best of all worlds. And I'm going to have to just create this little trough. I wanted to show this diagram because otherwise you'd be thinking, what is he going to do, put the lead outs through there? And the next time Les is in the shop, we're going to come up with these. I'll hopefully have this all carved up and ready to go. And then we have to make these what I call earmuff templates, where these plug onto the end of the wing. We've done that last year and the year before several times, and with excellent results, by the way. And the only downside of this whole thing is that the wing has to be mailed back to John after it's fiberglassed for him to do the coring. Well, as opposed to having an extra ounce of foam in each panel, it might be worth it. But again, still experimental. This is going to be something we're going to include on this wing, and it'll give me the option of some kind of system of running the batteries and no matter how Sergio comes up with that. The other thing, it'll allow me the option very conveniently. I can still put a Zetron in the A26. Not real convenient, but it still can be done. But this makes it really, really convenient. Anyway, that's the next step on this. One thing about all my models, this one of course already has a Zetron, and I always like to have as many options as possible. The options just seem to make it all a lot more worthwhile. And having this option, there's really no reason not to have it. It's going to be maybe 10 minutes of work. It'll give me an option to have another thought. Bob had this thought of just having the LEDs just for when you bring the plane to appearance judge, you could write LEDs. I'm not sure I need to go in that direction, but if I have to carry that tip weight anyway, well, what's the point? Anyway, let me carve up these troughs and we'll be ready to put the leading and trailing edges on the wing. I can just kind of estimate. I put this up against the wing where that trough would be. Again, I know there's a trade-off in terms of if you're involved in model aviation and your biggest thrust or the biggest thrill that you get out of it is winning trophies or awards, well, you know, some of these things that I do aren't really going to help you. But if you're in it for the money, if you're in it for just having cool models, that it seems like one thing I'm always able to do is come up with some new idea that most of the time is a problem. But we get some of them to work. But I just love this idea. What it would add to the plane is something you really underestimate all the time. Is you buy about 20 seconds of having your hand around running props, just being able to start the engine, reach over to the tip, and click the switch, and leave the battery on the plane, and just have a spare and change the battery just the same way as you change your tip weight. Every gallon of fuel, you could figure out how long the battery would last. Now what I'm going to do is just using one of those scalpel blades, just take that wood right out. We can use one of these gouge blades. We don't need to make this really too big. We've just got to be able to get it so we can slide it wires through there. And one of these sanding polywog type of things with a little radius on there. We can make a nice clean, again, because we want to have our wires kind of slide through there. I mean, in the worst of all worlds, you're just getting rid of a couple of grams of extra wood that are just going along for the ride anyway. You'll have a hollow leading edge if nothing else. One of the good tricks with any of these little rubber polywogs, if you want to make the radius a little bit bigger, in which case I wanted to get the radius a little bit bigger, just put several layers of sandpaper on there. And what it allows you to do is get right in there. In fact, just by putting more layers of sandpaper, you can make the radius infinite on these. What I did is I put pieces of 1/8" tape on a foam, so we're going to have 16th balsa 1/8" foam, and now I want to reverse that curve to complete what I hope is going to be our little trough for running the wires, should we choose to use it. Now what was funny is Karen came home today, and I kind of explained to her, hey, Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of doing. But that'll be nice, a safe way to pull a battery off and this, and I showed her how I'm cutting a straw. You know what the comment was? Why don't you wire it up for cable TV too and the internet too? So you really don't get the kind of respect in this event that you should. But anyway, now that we take the tape off there, we have what I hope is going to be a nice enough trough to run wires through. I'm going to put the edges on with aliphatic. In this case it's Elmer's, and I've thinned it about 1/3 water, shaking it up. Make sure the water's all at the bottom, at the top. There's a couple of tricks you can use to make this, that the joint is just a little bit easier. Don't get too much glue that it oozes out all over the place. That's one. Let the glue sit for a minute or so. It should be watery enough that you get a good bond. I don't want to have a big rough joint that I have to sand out, and the water helps it. The water helps the penetration too. Now in this case, there's no point getting too much on the foam, but I would like to get most of it on the wood, if I have a choice. Again, always best to glue both sides. If you have any sheeting, that's usually, if sheeting is not sticking down as well as you'd like at the corners, you can shove a little glue under there with a razor blade.